Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the Bulletin. Prime Minister hints at further relaxation of COVID-19 measures for the police commissioner to take decisive action against crime or resign. And later, West Indies eyeing 2-1 lead today against England in their 5-match. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says there will be a further rollback of the COVID-19 containment measures which are now in place across the island. He says this will take place once the country is out of the 4th wave of the pandemic.
That I have taken, but to prepare the society generally that in the coming months we will have to start to take down some of the restrictions that are in place. Well, take down more of the restrictions that are in place. And the public should now start to visualize the ending of the DRMA.
Mr. Holness, who was speaking at the opening of the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 17th Regional Conference last night, said COVID-19 containment measures like lockdowns have severely impacted economic activity and people's livelihood.
We have to ensure that our economy gets back on track very quickly. So we cannot afford to have the measures impede our economic recovery. And if it is that our vaccination rates don't rise to the level where we can be guaranteed herd immunity, then the government can only help our citizens by providing them with information, encouraging them to get vaccinated. But we cannot, and I repeat this point, we cannot keep our economy under restrictions.
The country's COVID-19 positivity rate fell to 35.7%. It was 46% the previous day, while the number of persons hospitalized with the virus remains at 559. 51 are severely ill and 25 are critically ill. Within the last 24 hours, 527 new cases were recorded from 2,625 samples. The overall case count is now 121,963. In the meantime, 6 more persons have died from the respiratory illness, increasing the overall death toll to 2,615. 14 deaths are under investigation. 198 people have recovered from the virus. The total recoveries now stand at 68,747. And back to the Prime Minister's comments at that Stock Exchange Regional Conference now. Mr. Holness says greater focus must be placed on the use of technology locally. Now, this comes as the global information technology market is expected to grow significantly by 2025. O'Shane Masters has the details.
There's a call this afternoon for more innovations from Jamaicans to further spur the country's economic growth. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the conventional way of doing things and conducting business in the island has been hampering the growth that can be achieved through the use of technology. He says if that's not changed, the island will be lagging far behind other economies who have already embraced technology. Mr. Holness says there needs to be a shift in the mindset of Jamaicans.
Because the world is going to change rapidly in the next decade. Because the technology is changing rapidly, but more than that, the technology is also converging. It is bringing together the cyber with the physical. It's connecting everything in the Internet of Things. And that is just going to open up new vistas of opportunities. New ways of creating and storing wealth.
It's why Mr. Holness says there now needs to be more investments in the capital markets and towards education.
We need to invest in the skills for the jobs of tomorrow. We need to stake out our place in the 4th industrial revolution. Jamaica and the Caribbean cannot therefore rely solely on the industries that have sustained us for the last 60 years. We must bring new ideas and technologies to expand and increase efficiency of our traditional industries. We must also create and invest in the industries of the future to diversify our industrial and productive base.
Mr. Holness was speaking at the opening ceremony of the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 17th Regional Conference on Tuesday night. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The murder tally in St. James has increased following the shooting of 3 men, 1 fatally, along the Salt Spring Main Road last night. The men were attacked about 8 o'clock as they gathered for drinks. A car drove up and men with guns alighted. The men shot at the group, hitting the 3. The injured men were taken to hospital where the unidentified man was pronounced dead. Another man is in critical condition while the 3rd was treated and released. There have been 25 murders in St. James since the start of the year. And at least one academic is supporting the opposition's call for the police commissioner to get crime under control or resign. As Sandy Williams reports, Assistant Lecturer of Public Policy at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Damian Gordon, believes the People's National Party made a fair call.
If the commissioner cannot find another strategic approach to getting the crime problem under control within the next 60 days, I think he must call it a day as well and allow someone else to take up the mantle.
Opposition leader Mark Golding on Tuesday outlining an ultimatum for Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson at a press briefing. This following a spike in murders across the country. Since the start of the year, Jamaica recorded more than 100 murders. Mr. Golding said there needs to be accountability for poor performance. Assistant Lecturer of Public Policy at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, Damian Gordon, believes the PNP has made a fair call for the police commissioner to get crime under control or resign. Speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106 on Wednesday, Mr. Gordon said he is yet to see clear and effective strategies to address the country's crime wave.
I've not seen anything that has happened over the last several years that indicate to me that the commissioner is adopting or intends to adopt a new approach to crime fighting, one that is novel, one that is more innovative. What I've seen is this adaptation or the adoption of a failed strategy using brutality, reciprocal violence, and authoritarianism, which has never worked in Jamaica. So I don't see anything that will inspire optimism in me that we're headed for a change, a new direction anytime soon. So I think based on those facts and observations, I don't think it's an unfair call.
However, the police commissioner has promised to intensify crime-fighting efforts across the country. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is at the center of a firestorm this afternoon following a statement he made at a press conference on Tuesday. Dr. Campbell labeled Jamaica Labour Party Chairman Roberto Montague as the leader of the black section of the governing party.
In response to Dr. Dayton Campbell's comment, Generation 2000, G2K, the young professional affiliate of the JLP, called it an attempt to divide Jamaica with segregationist rhetoric. Attorney at law Kenyatta Powell also reacted to the comment.
Ensuing conversation about the presser is dominated by the fact that Dayton Campbell opened his mouth and just said something completely idiotic. So Dayton Campbell, I think, is one of those politicians, and we have a cadre of them on both sides who suffer constantly from foot-in-mouth disease.
Mr. Powell is also taking issue with the optics surrounding the statement. He says Dr. Campbell's choice of words could turn out to be politically harmful.
The current leader of the People's National Party, and presumably the person who would become the next Prime Minister of Jamaica, a majority black country, more than 90% black country, is a white man. Mm-hmm. So I am unsure why Dr. Dayton Campbell thought it was a good idea to inject race into the discussion in this way.
In the meantime, Mr. Powell says while there is a need for serious discussion on race and class dynamics in Jamaica, the approach must be different.
We're not going to have those conversations if based on stupid comments from a political platform or from a presser by somebody like Dayton Campbell, who I would argue is not as smart as he thinks himself to be.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark on Tuesday tabled the third supplementary estimates of expenditure for the current financial year. Dr. Clark told the House of Representatives that the new estimates became necessary because of the transfer of some state entities.
Specifically, the third supplementary estimate provides for the closure of Head 21,000, which is the Ministry of Housing, Urban Renewal and Environment, and moving all of its functions to Head 19,000, which is the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And this also results in the Forestry Department, which is a department of the former Housing Ministry, moving and becoming a department of the Ministry of Economic Growth. The supplementary also provides for the establishment of Head 27,000, which is the new Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
Alliance Financial Services Limited has failed in its bid to have the suspension of its cambio and remittance licenses lifted. It is fighting the action taken by the Bank of Jamaica in court. The central bank suspended the licenses in early December following criminal charges and allegations of contravention of banking laws against Alliance Financial and key stakeholders Robert Chin and Peter Chin. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we look at hand, foot and mouth disease.
Generally, the rash will settle down within a week. And so after the rashes have crusted over, then the children can return to childcare. I know that's one of the questions that parents tend to ask: when can my child go back to school or go back to childcare? Once the rashes have crusted over, and it generally takes a week, then they can go back to childcare. Sometimes you have stripping of the fingers and toes. That's expected in some instances. And sometimes even the nails may be lost after an episode of hand, foot, and mouth.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Suck on ice pops or ice chips. Drink cold beverages such as milk or ice water. Avoid acidic foods and beverages such as citrus fruits, fruit drinks and soda. And avoid salty or spicy foods.
And here now is Sandy Williams with the top regional and international stories.
In regional news, the Guyana government is considering making mandatory COVID-19 booster shots for travelers entering and leaving the country. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony said the COVID-19 booster shots may soon become a requirement as the health authorities continue to grapple with the rising number of cases in the country. Guyana has so far recorded 1,148 deaths and 57,772 infections linked to the virus since March 2020. Dr. Anthony said that with 133 patients now hospitalized across the country, he is urging people to get fully inoculated as well as the booster doses, as most admitted patients are unvaccinated with some form of comorbidity. As of Tuesday, 60.3% of the country's population have been fully vaccinated. On the international scene, about 62% of British adults say Prime Minister Boris Johnson should resign. That's according to a Survation poll released Wednesday. Survation interviewed 1,117 adults online on January 25, the day that the London Metropolitan Police announced they were investigating parties at Johnson's Downing Street office during COVID-19 lockdown. This has put pressure on the UK's leader. However, when he addressed lawmakers Wednesday, the British Prime Minister said he will not resign over the Downing Street parties scandal. A report on the gatherings is expected to be released this week. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, it will be time for your midday sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for your midday sports. England could bolster their batting for today's third 2020 international against the West Indies as hard-hitting right-handed batsman Liam Livingstone could return to the lineup. Livingstone sat out the opening two games due to illness, but with the series tied at 1-1, England could opt to use him at the top of the order. In the meantime, as England look to adjust to conditions in the region, West Indies all-rounder Jason Holder is hoping the Caribbean batsmen can adjust to England spinners as they look to win their first T20 series against the visitors since 2014.
I think we just got to show more intent. And intent doesn't mean, hitting the ball in the air or, being reckless. I just think we need to be more precise in our footwork and committing to certain things, not being tentative. I think for me personally, when you look at West Indies cricket, playing slow bowling in the last probably decade, a lot of it has been tentative, and that's because you're unsure sometimes, yes, but you could be unsure, but still show intent and have a bowler guessing. I think we've got to impose ourselves a little bit more and just show more intent with our footwork and just commit to more stroke play.
Now today's game will bowl off at 3 p.m. Meanwhile, following his 4 for 7 and 2 for 25 so far in the series against England, West Indian Jason Holder has jumped 49 places to be ranked 26th in the latest ICC T20 bowling rankings. The all-rounder is now the highest-ranked West Indian on the list, which is being led by Sri Lanka's Wanindu Hasaranga. Akil Hussain also went up by 40 places to go to number 33 after his 2 scalps in the 2 matches. Now, Jamaican Fabian Allen also experienced a positive shift, moving up to 34, with countryman Sheldon Cottrell at 43, the only other West Indian in the top 50. And title favourite Daniel Medvedev saved a match point before producing a stunning comeback against Felix Auger to set up an Australian Open semi-final against Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas. The second seed Medvedev eventually won 6-7, 3-6, 7-6, 7-5, 6-4, becoming the first player to fight back from 2 sets down in Melbourne this year. Fourth seed Tsitsipas earned a dominant straight-set win over Yannick Sinner. The 23-year-old, beaten by Medvedev in last year's semi-final, won 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. Now, Tsitsipas has the opportunity to avenge that defeat against the Russian and reach his first Australian Open final. On the women's side, American Danielle Collins returned from an indefinite break to reach the Australian Open semis. The 27th seed has reached her second semi-final in Melbourne after a 7-5, 6-1 win over France's Alice Cornet. Now Collins faces 7th seed Iga Swiatek, who beat veteran Kate Kanepi 4-6, 7-6, 6-3 in Thursday's semi-final. And finally, the Los Angeles Clippers fought back from 35 points down to complete one of the biggest comebacks in NBA history and snatch a sensational 116-115 win over the Washington Wizards. The Clippers had trailed 66-31 at one point in the first half and seemed destined for defeat. Their comeback is 1 point short of the NBA record set by the Utah Jazz in 1996 when they overcame a 36-point deficit to beat the Denver Nuggets. Elsewhere, LeBron James scored 33 points in the Los Angeles Lakers' 106-96 win over the Brooklyn Nets. And Joel Embiid scored 42 points as the Philadelphia 76ers overcame the New Orleans Pelicans 117-107. Also on Tuesday, the Boston Celtics ran out 128-75 winners over the Sacramento Kings, making it 7 wins from their last 10 games. There were also wins for the Warriors over the Mavericks, Spurs over Rockets, Raptors at home to Hornets, and the Clippers against the Wizards. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Thanks so much, Renardo. West Indies today, your thoughts?
Ooh, West Indies to win.
West Indies to win. If the man actually play some good cricket.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.